Is it going? Okay, we're making this movie for cousin Austin, who's the family historian. And I have a few family artifacts I'd like for him to see, and some that I want him to have, and some that I want him to end up with. When Evie and Henry moved back from Modesto and moved back to the Phillips farm into a little small house, and then they later built onto it and just remodeled it and did all kind of things to it. And they saw they were going to have a pretty good sized family, so he had a table built, this table. And at first, it was a foot longer, but when Mama and Ain't No Leader moved, they took it and had it cut off so it'd give them a little more room around the edges. And Mama always bragged that she was a little let down when they got electric lights with a light bulb hanging down from the ceiling, because their Aladdin lamp had put off just as good a light. She said it was better light than that electric light bulb. This is Aladdin lamp. This table, Miss Evie got a hand-me-down from Sylvia's mother, fancy table, and this went out in the barn. And we came down one time and she said, "Eddie, will you take that table?" And I said, "Well, sure." I said, "I'll come get it sometime." Next thing I know, she had Earl loading it up in the truck. So she gave us this. This lamp, Sue had it, and she wanted us to have it. And it's an important family heirloom, but she wanted us to have it, and even went to a hardware store in Dothan that had everything and got this. This is a real Aladdin lamp globe. So this is where all the Yarbroughs sat. Uncle Dob probably sat right here doing his homework, and Mama over there. When they'd eat, Miss Evie sat here, and Papa would sit here, and so she could get up and go to the kitchen. Okay, stop it. Okay, when Earl came back from World War II, he brought this knife with him. I don't think it was a Navy issue knife, but he brought this home with him, and they used it to kill hogs. Papa would show you just how they kill hogs with it. Well, from the moment I saw it, I set in on Papa. I wanted that knife. I wanted that. Papa, I'll trade you. Please give me that knife. So finally, years later, he relented and gave me this knife, and I have stuck it up in trees, and it's one of my most valuable possessions that went from Earl to Papa, and I beat him out of it. Now, this was Papa's pocket knife, and it was getting a little old. So I wanted this just because it was Papa's. So I offered to trade Papa this big old queen steel knife, which is not nearly as good for cutting tobacco, which is all he did with it. And so I traded Henry this knife for this knife, and then about a year later, he said, "You can have that knife back." So this didn't fit in, but I still had his knife, and at some point I'd like for Austin to end up with this. Now this is probably the most historic thing next to that basket. Old John Yarbrough, William, who joined the Civil War at 9 years old, 9 or 10. We've got proof that he was in and went off to battles and things. This was his whitrock to sharpen his razor with. Now that's William Yarbrough's whitrock, and it's Franz Schwarz, made in Austria, which is probably a big deal. So Papa inherited it, and Papa one time just out of the clear blue sky said, "Well, I want you to take that with you." So I've kept up with it, and I'd kind of like for Austin to end up with this too. All right, cut it. Okay, probably the most precious family heirloom is this little basket that it was our grandpa Foreman, I believe, traded with the Indians. He traded them a basket like this full of cornmeal and they gave him this little basket. And Benny Frank explains about how one of our cousins built this little handle for it. So of all the Yarbrough Phillips Foreman memorabilia, this is the king. And now this little basket, I'm not too clear. Either Grandpa Phillips made it or Uncle Pharaoh made it. If Uncle Pharaoh made it for all the kids, then probably Verna has one and Alexa may have one. So we need to see if Alexa's got a little basket like this. But this, maybe Uncle Pharaoh did it, maybe Grandpa Phillips did, but this is a white oak basket, and both of them could make baskets. We do know that. So that's another precious heirloom. Now, this, Grandma Phillips had this and made pies, pear pies. Benny Frank remembers Grandma Phillips making pies in this, and I'm going to give this to Austin next time I see him. And she also had this, the egg separator. She probably never used that. This is something she got, from the store or something. But all of these things Benny Frank gave us. Benny Frank had a son, 2 grandchildren, but she gave them to me because she knew that I'd keep up with them and I valued their importance. All right, cut it off.